Good morning, everybody. My name is Larry Jacobs. This is Pre-K-12 Education Talk Radio. We're going to talk about school safety today with Dr. Roderick Sams, who's the Chief Development Officer at a company called Centegix. And he has a long background in education, and he's moved into school safety, and oddly, by a bad coincidence today. Okay, as many of you know, I live in Maine. We had that mass shooting just yesterday evening, and this guy's still on the loose at 9 o'clock in the morning on the 26th. So, and they shut down all the schools in that whole part of Maine, about 90 minutes from where I live in the town of up by the Lewiston area. Okay, so I think it's important we talk about this, okay, today, and I'm so glad Dr. Sams is here with us today to put this company, which is, by the way, it got a lot of awards, a fast-growing company in school safety. It's called Centegix. I got it linked here, but Centegix. We're going to archive the show over at ace-ed.org. That's our home website for the American Consortium for Equity in Education. Everything free. Everything is free over there, so go over, check it out. We have our magazine, Equity and Access. It goes to a lot of people, and we appreciate all the feedback we get on it. All right. We have all the podcasts over there and our Excellence in Equity Awards, which was just opened up for the education side. So if you want to nominate yourself, you can. If you want to nominate your colleagues, you can. Faculty, staff, your school, etc. Please check it out. Everything's over at ace-ed.org. And without me speaking any further, let me bring on my guest today, and I'm going to make him laugh as I introduce him. Good morning, Rocky.
Good morning, sir. Good morning.
Call me Larry,
funny.
Roderick. I was researching you, and you there was all these things, Dr. Roderick, and when quotes Rocky Sams. I had to do it. I'm sorry.
Well, that's fantastic. Obviously it's a name that's easy to remember, and it just kind of flows, right, Dr. Rocky Sams. So it does. It does indeed. What should I call you this morning? You tell me.
Rocky
works just fine.
Rocky is good. And it's Dr. Roderick Sams, by the way. But
yeah. Thank you.
Right? I couldn't resist. Sorry, Rocky. I couldn't resist.
No,
okay?
not a problem. Understood completely.
Yeah. And this morning, as I said, it's a terrible coincidence that we're having this conversation today. All the schools are closed in a big part of the state today while they search for this lunatic. All right, and they still don't even here. They don't even have the exact numbers yet of how many people were injured, et cetera. And they're using one of the middle schools as a place to unify the community and put out information, et cetera. And so I hate to say it, but it's good timing, okay, because people are going to be worried about this, et cetera, and whatever. So let's start there. Yeah, but if you'd like to say something, be my guest. But I want to ask you first to tell us all about Centegix.
Okay. First and foremost, I definitely want to send out my thoughts and prayers to the entire Lewiston, Maine community and anyone and everyone that's affected by the chaos and mayhem that was caused on yesterday, and the fact that this person is still at large continues to put the community in a sense of paralysis, and I can only fathom just the things that they're experiencing and going through. So again, thoughts, minds, prayers.
Thank you, my man.
To the entire community.
We appreciate it up here in Maine. A lot of people are getting in touch with me from all over the country, asking me, but we're far from that, and safe and sound. But it's disturbing when it happens anywhere, and it's especially disturbing if it happens in quote your neighborhood. So but this neighborhood is an hour and a half from me, but still, it's pretty crazy.
Right. So I happen to be So at this current moment, I happen to be in San Diego at a conference for large urban school districts, Council of Great City Schools. They convene their fall conference about this time every year. And so this year we're in San Diego, California. And last evening, as the events and information was starting to come out, obviously a lot of the attendees were abuzz around, just the idea of it happening again, even though it's not specifically targeting a school per se. the community at large is still being affected, which, of course, by default affects schools, affects students, affects parents, et cetera.
Everywhere.
So, of course,
it's just terrible.
So of course, they're thinking about, how to make sure that they protect the most precious resource that they have, which is their students. Yep. And obviously, as superintendents and other key leaders, they're thinking about their faculty and staff and the community at large as well. So that's kind of the core premise of Centegix, which, we are an alert/emergency response system that allows for every faculty staff member of any school or any district facility to be able to call for help when help is needed. And it starts with a wearable panic button that does not require a Wi-Fi or cellular capability in order for you to do a location of the individual that is in need of help by pressing that badge, by sending that alert. And because we map out every facility of every school district we work with, we get accurate location. So we know exactly where the event is taking place. And some of those events could be things like classroom disturbances or medical emergencies or some of those kinds of things that happen every day in schools. But, of course, our system does allow for that location to be prominent in any type of mass notification event, whether it's in the case of what we were just talking about, in case if it was an active shooter, he needs to lock down a facility, or any other type of notification event in which everyone in that building or everyone in that location needs to be notified that something is happening. It could be a weather alert. It could be some other things. So our system is designed to get help fast because we're able to locate and identify where the threat or where the incident is happening. And then every person that is to respond, whether it's in the case of a localized event, it could be the school response team, which usually consists of the principal, or if you have a school resource officer, or sometimes it's a school nurse, whomever that school designates. Or if it's a large-scale event, then obviously we could not only connect to those school officials and district officials, but also to any first responders as the districts designate as well. So
how is it able to tell if I'm a teacher and whatever's going on, I push a button on my wrist, which reminds me, I fall and I can't get up, the thing elderly people wear around their neck. Okay, but that just sends a generic emergency. Okay, what you just described, which is fabulous, by the way, and I love the way Centegix is growing. Okay, how does it know what's going on? How is that reported in? Is there a person at the other end? I'm thinking of the old alarm companies where the guy picks up, what's your problem? Should I call the police? Well, how does this work? How does this work in this case?
So each person that receives a panic button or our badge is what we call it. That badge is assigned to an individual person, right? We do it through a QR code system where you can literally just assign it to a person, give it to them, and then it reads, their information based upon what you entered in. Usually it's an email address, something that identifies them, right? So we as I mentioned earlier, we map every single facility. So we map out the exact rooms, hallways, whether it's a cafeteria, gym, parking lots, even football and baseball stadiums that you may have at your schools or at your facilities. So we map out every single piece of your district. And so that's how we're able to do the kind of identifying that is necessary in order to know exactly where a threat or where an incident is happening. We also, because of the fact that we place, they're locating devices throughout your entire school. We put them in every classroom. We put them in hallways. We put them in those areas where people congregate. So that is how we're able to identify through the badge, through the alert, who and where a person is. So that alert, so to answer the question about who gets it on the other end, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, every school will designate a response team. And again, usually it's the principal and a few other key people. And so we load software on your, whatever device you want to receive the alert. It could be a desktop or a laptop computer. It could be a cell phone where there's a response app that we can send to those responders, and only the responders get that technology or that capability. And then when an alert happens, that it comes across to the responder, sort of like an Amber Alert. It's like it literally takes over your device that you set to receive the alert. And when you hit that alert that has come through on your, whatever your technology that you've loaded it on, literally that alert pops up and it gives a map that shows Rocky Sams in room 222 needs help. Now, we may not know exactly what the help is, but we know that he's calling for help and where he is, so that that response team can then go to that location and provide the support that he needs at that moment.
It's such a good idea. And I think, I hate to say it, and you would feel the same way too. And of course, I mean this in full respect to Centegix. It's a horror that we need stuff like this, but we need this so badly right now. Okay, it's just nobody wanted it to be this way. I spent 20 plus years in K-12 education. I started out as a teacher assistant, and then I worked all the way up to become a high school principal several years ago before I started moving into the education technology space. And one of the things I always think about is, the incidences that I've had in my schools over the years. The way we responded was the only way we knew how to, or the only way that the capability allowed for. And I can only imagine how many things could have been lessened or even in some cases prevented with a solution like this, right? Yeah. And so that's the value of not just having a solution that allows for immediate notification and identification, but also making sure that even as incidences may be potentially happening, you can actually send an alert to maybe prevent that fight that was going to take place in the cafeteria because I was able to call for help, and the administrators would intervene before that situation even happened. So, these are the kinds of things that school districts are finding a value in, which is one of the reasons why we're growing. And to your point, one of my things that I say a lot is I love what I do. I just hate I have to do it. Yeah, exactly. It's brutal out there.
Yeah, and so, again, I hate that it's necessary, but I'm glad we're able to provide the support that we can.
Yeah, and you're at the Council of Great City Schools, which are the large urban districts, or if I may, the largest district in any given state, okay?
Correct.
Yeah, I know your group quite well. Damn good group. And by the way, thank you for getting up so early. I didn't realize you were going to be in California today. Okay,
no, that's quite all right.
It's 6:15 there. Okay, so thank you, Rocky. I appreciate that. Yeah, it is, and you don't sound like you've been up for about 2 hours. I hope you're sucking down that coffee. Okay, apologize for that. I would have made it a little late.
Hey, I'm a coffee guy, so yes, I had to
You sound good. You sound good for this early in the morning. How long is I have a couple of questions. How long has Centegix been around, and what are you hearing? And you're the kind of, if I'm reading this right, the liaison between the schools and the company. Okay, you've got this great and long history in K-12 education. What are you hearing from as you go out and talk to principals? You probably got a booth at the conference, and you guys are talking to a million superintendents and principals out there. Okay, what are they saying about all this? Okay, all about school security, etc. I would imagine they're pretty pleased when they hear about a company like Centegix because, I have to say this too. Every teacher, the way I'm reading it, I think in most of your programs, the teachers all have I'll call it a panic button, just a way to get in touch. Okay. And that means a lot these days. We can't lose teachers. Teachers are under a lot of pressure. And the least thing they need is the threat of violence or something going out of control, et cetera. Okay? So this makes teachers feel a lot more comfortable in their day at work. Okay, in my opinion, in these crazy times. So I'm just asking, as you talk to people at the conference and as you talk to school districts in your daily job, what are you hearing from all the folks out there about school security?
Yeah. So one of the things I think is kind of resonating is the idea that, safety solutions have become the thing that, districts are making significant investments in, right? And one of the things I think is also important as we start thinking about kind of what are the things that are front of mind for a lot of school districts. Obviously, safety is key and it's critical. The better schools are safer schools. And, when people feel good about coming to work, when kids feel good about coming to school, their minds aren't clouded with constant threat or constant disruption. And so that actually improves instruction. One of the things that we pride ourselves on as we work with districts is because we're able to get help so much faster to an incident that may happen in a classroom or wherever, it allows for teachers to get the support they need as quickly as possible and then get back to doing the thing that they really want to do, which is teach. And so exactly. we really make that as a core principle or core foundation of what our system is designed to do. And so when I think about some of the conversations I've had this week, a lot of it has centered around safety and a lot of it is centered around, providing support for teachers because we provide or the districts will provide a badge to every single faculty and staff member. It's a tangible benefit that you're making an investment in the safety of the staff. And so they think about things like how does that help us be able to retain but also recruit the highest quality teachers possible. Everybody's dealing with teacher shortages and staff shortages. And so if there's things that you can use to share with a potential teacher to say, hey, we've made this investment in your safety and your security as an employee, that may make the difference between whether that teacher goes to District X or District Y. And so these are the kind of things that superintendents are talking to as relates to some of that auxiliary benefit. And of course, as we think about when we were founded in 2017, but we really started thinking through our solution more tangibly and kind of more specifically after Parkland. After the Parkland tragedy. And our founder really thought through all the things that happened during Parkland, as tragic as it obviously was, and started saying what could have made a difference potentially in the lives of those young people if these things were in place.
That's right.
And so when you start thinking about audio and visual notification, being able to do an intercom announcement that is in real time, or being able to do lights that flash everywhere so people will know, hey, something is happening, get behind a locked door, or a desktop takeover announcement on every network device that allows for you to give instructions to everybody in a building so that even if you don't work there specifically, say you're visiting, say you're a substitute teacher, and you want to know what to do in a moment of crisis, every device that is networked would be able to send out a message that allows for you to know, give instructions and give protocols on what to do. And so these are all the things that we built into the system. I mentioned earlier about not being reliant on Wi-Fi and cellular. That's important because in many of our schools, Wi-Fi and cellular coverage is spotty at best. And so making sure that we use a system that allows for the notifications to come through in the most seamless way possible. And so those were all the things that were core tenets of the crisis alert system. And
what's the system? What's the system? How does it?
It's a low grade Bluetooth network that we actually create from within the actual location. And so each of those locating devices that I mentioned earlier, those strobes, they actually communicate to each other through a brain that we call our gateway. So our gateway is the brain of the system, and it sends. So when an alert goes to that from that badge to the gateway, that signal is sent to all of those locating devices. And so as it's reading and bouncing off of each other through that Bluetooth network, that's when it's providing those locations, and that's how I able to identify where the person is that actually pressed the button. So it's kind of an ingenious methodology as you think about it, because it again, now we do need internet capability for the gateway because that's the brain of the system. But as far as Wi-Fi or cellular coverage, because of again, some of the challenges there, we wanted a system that wasn't reliant, because we know how unreliable those two things can be in many of our schools across the country. That's
good. And I must ask a question, and I'm thinking this will make you laugh. That's at 6:21 in the morning. Okay. But I'm thinking when people buy one of those automatic robot vacuum cleaners, they turn it on. The first thing the thing does is run all over the house and map the house. Okay. Which I always think funny, but it actually knows where it is in the house in relation to its base and what the rooms are, et cetera, which I think is smarter than me, considering it's a vacuum cleaner. All right. And my curiosity is, how do you guys map the school? Well, what actually happens in that? How long does that process take, and how is it done? I find that fascinating, and I think it's incredibly strong point. Okay. How do you map it?
So many of our districts have maps of all of their facilities, right? And so when they have those, we literally take those maps and we re-render them in our platform. So we architect every map that we receive, and we embed it into our platform. Now, the technology behind that is pretty sophisticated, but we're able to ingest those maps pretty accurately within our platform. And in some cases, we do have some districts where maps have gotten dated, they've made adjustments, et cetera, et cetera. And so we sometimes will have to go to those facilities and actually render them in a physical way, right? We have to go on site and actually, create the mapping from the facility itself. We have, as a part of our safety platform, a mapping solution that actually, once the maps are rendered, it allows for them to have the ability to not just map for accuracy, but we also can put assets on a map. So just think about for a second, if you have cameras in your schools, we can actually put on our map within our system where your cameras are, or where your AEDs are, or where your fire extinguishers are, so that if someone had to report to an event or a situation, they would know where the emergency equipment is, or if they're trying to get information in advance of showing up to an event and that camera is actually loaded onto our device, to our map, then it may be a situation where they can actually access those cameras and get information prior to showing up to a situation, so they'll at least have some preliminary intel. So our mapping solution obviously works very well in concert with our alerting system, but it's also something that a lot of districts are starting to find value in for asset management and other things.
It's so important. And then I assume it's also connected, I'll say, to the police station and the fire department?
Yes.
So they can just...
So districts can...
It blinks on it. There's when it blinks on at the school.
Correct. So, many of our districts have their own, localized school resource officers. They have their own chief of safety, right? And so many of them have their own command centers. So we will literally connect in those kind of situations with those command centers. But in some of our districts where they don't, obviously we can make the connection directly to that local law enforcement entity that they designate, right? And so, just like I mentioned earlier, when an alert comes through and that alert gives a location and it gives accurate information on where that alert initiated, you can have it set up to where as the police officers receive that information in their cruiser, they'll actually be able to see that same mapping technology. And so when they show up to a situation, they know which part of the school or which area of the facility to go, versus waiting for someone to give them instruction, and because of the chaotic situation, you never know how that can get communicated or not communicated. So being able to automate that as much as possible is really important when it comes to saving time.
Exactly. And you just said the word. These situations can be extremely chaotic, and there has to be a system in place. Okay, which is you like to think it'll be calmly handled, but these usually, they're well handled, but they're chaotic, and we have to be sure that we're getting the right information. I'm curious about this. I know you guys do a lot of work with data. How many incidents, were there last year? I'll say like that Centegix discovered. How many times was it actually used? I don't know if you have that information with you.
Not right in front of me, but I can tell you our badge is probably used 98% of the time in those day-to-day situations that happen, in every school across the country, right?
Oh, yeah.
So you think about those classroom issues, you think about medical emergencies, you think about, any situation that requires that notification to go through a respondent for them to come to a situation and provide support. And so that is 98+% of the time in which our system is used. And, again, we know that the mass casualty events get a lot of attention because those are the ones that usually make, the media or... Yeah,
but they're rare. They're rare. Yeah.
Right. And we definitely want to be mindful and understand the need to have that insurance policy. So in case it happens, you have something that you can rely on and something that can help the situation because it'll help people understand exactly what the threat is and be able to know what to do in real time. But again, we're dealing with a lot of challenges post-COVID in a lot of schools. A lot of students have returned back to school even now, and the level of disruption has expanded tremendously. And so teachers are on, high alert, not only for those mass things, but they're high alert because of just the ability to manage and handle situations that many of our young people are coming to school with.
That's right.
And even some of our faculty and staff as well. And so we understand having something that is that can be used easily. The simplicity of the badge is really important. You don't want something that is so complicated that people don't want to use it because they got to figure out what to do. But also at the same time, you want to make sure that they have it readily available to them. I don't want to have to look in my desk drawer or, if I'm, in my purse or anywhere else to find whatever I'm supposed to use to initiate an alert. Exactly. I want to make sure it's something that I have on my person from the time I show up to work until the time I leave, so that if something happens, I know that whoever's on the other end of that alert knows who I am and where I am.
Yeah, it's so important. And down in Georgia, there's a well, that's where you're from, as a matter of fact, down in Georgia. Mm-hmm. But you have a note from the head of, I think, the head of security, Mr. Strong, in I think I don't know what Douglas County Schools. Okay, mm-hmm. And he wrote that when one of the teachers had to push the button on their badge. All right, in terms of notification, I'm just paraphrasing him. They heard it over the intercom. The strobes lit up. This is interesting, and it came up on the smart boards. How about that, everybody? Mm-hmm. And monitors in the classroom and throughout the school, and they were all made aware that there was a dangerous situation, whatever that might have been, and everybody was able to respond appropriately. Okay, and this is how important this is. And actually, that brings up. I'll just try to end this with a little bit of humor on a crazy day this morning. All right, I'm sure over the course of the time, there has been one or two funny instances where a substitute teacher, actually let all the hamsters out in the classroom and couldn't figure out what to do. Okay, are there any like funny anecdotal stories about that? I don't know if that's happened, but it just strikes me that that could happen. And funny.
I'm sure they have, Larry. I think one of the things that we do capture though are a lot of stories where the badge has truly been, and I don't say this lightly, truly been a lifesaver.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
And so, but yeah, I think there are probably those stories, and we don't really get a lot of those because I think a lot of those stay in house with the district. But I'm I'm sure they exist, but I just would love to kind of share, again, when you're talking about, safety and security, you're really talking about things that are designed to improve the culture and climate of your school.
That's right.
You're thinking about things that are designed to improve your schools, right? These are types of investments that districts are making to, empower and protect their precious resources, the students that they are in the care of, the faculty and staff that they're designed to support, the community that they try to uplift. And so these are all the things that we think about every day as we try to deploy a system that allows our ability to help districts perform those tasks. And we take it very seriously. We're always looking for ways to improve. We take a lot of feedback from our existing districts and also districts that we're in conversation with on how to make our solution better, how to make sure that it works in the way that is necessary, because ultimately every second matters and every life matters.
Yeah, it does.
We want to support those things as much as possible. So I appreciate the opportunity to kind of share a little bit about the Centegix story.
The work you guys are doing.
To share a little bit about Crisis Alert and how it's being of benefit to a lot of schools in a lot of districts across the country, and we're pleased to be able to support those districts in the way that is necessary, because ultimately safer schools are better schools.
Darn right, and this is so important. Again, it's a crazy day here in Maine, and a lot of schools are closed today because of a mass shooting up in Lewiston, and it just speaks to what this can happen anywhere. We have to have a program in place, and Centegix, I have it linked here on site, will help you. And now I'm going to tell you something that you will thank me forever. Are you ready, Rocky?
I'm ready.
All right, you're in San Diego. Okay, I know you're downtown. Mm-hmm. Okay, go to Richard Walker's Pancake House for breakfast tomorrow. Do not miss that.
Richard Walker's Pancake House.
Yes,
I'm writing that down.
Okay, and trust me, you will add my name to your prayers. You will add my name to your prayers when I'm done. When you're done.
Give me the name one more time. I got Richard. Give me the name again.
Richard Walker. Richard Walker,
Pancake House.
Pancakes, or breakfast, whatever it is. But it's well known out there, and just don't miss it.
Okay.
Richard Walker. You will thank me forever. Yes. And on that note, have a great time in one of my favorite cities where it's always room temperature in San Diego. And I can't thank you enough for being here, Rocky. Thank you, and continue good luck, good work with all the good you're doing, because this Centegix stuff is very, very important. Thanks for getting up so early. Have a great day, my friend. Thank you.
Thanks, Larry, for the opportunity. Greatly appreciate it.
My pleasure, and enjoy your breakfast. Okay?
All right. Will do.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. That's Roderick Sams, Dr. Sams, who's the Chief Development Officer after many years in the public education. Okay, I believe most of that in Georgia. Over at Centegix, I got it linked, and this is really important security stuff, so check it all out. All right, it's on my mind today. What can I tell you? We're going to archive the show over at ace-ed.org. I'm Larry Jacobs. Thank you for listening.